Welcome back to our channel. Over the past decade, military coups in Africa have risen sharply by nearly 40%, threatening the democratic progress made across the continent. These coups not only dismantle governments, but also severely undermine civil liberties and human rights. The increasing frequency of these events poses grave dangers to established democratic institutions, leaving citizens vulnerable to oppressive regimes. Political instability, economic hardship, and social unrest often fuel these power grabs, destabilizing nations for years to come. One striking example is the recent coup in Chad, where atrocities are being committed against darker-skinned citizens, exposing the racial and ethnic violence that often accompanies such upheavals. This tragic situation reveals the complexity of restoring democracy and safeguarding human rights in the aftermath of a coup. Personal stories from those affected shed light on the brutal realities faced by millions. The impact of military coups on African nations is devastating. From collapsing economies to suppressed freedoms, the consequences are far-reaching. The urgency to address this issue cannot be overstated, as each coup further erodes democracy and stifles hope for a peaceful future. In recent years, Europe has seen a troubling rise in far-right movements, with political parties and extremist groups gaining traction across the continent. One of their key agendas is the massive deportation of immigrants, particularly targeting people of color and those from Muslim-majority countries. This surge in anti-immigrant sentiment poses a serious threat to the rights and safety of millions, as well as to the core values of inclusion and human dignity that Europe has long strived to uphold. Far-right parties are increasingly pushing for strict immigration controls and mass deportations, framing immigrants as scapegoats for economic challenges, cultural shifts, and security concerns. Their rhetoric taps into nationalist ideologies, portraying immigrants, especially non-white immigrants, as threats to the purity of European nations. The rise of xenophobia and Islamophobia has fueled these calls, with the far right advocating for policies that would forcibly remove people from countries they've called home for years, even decades. In countries like France, Italy, Hungary, and Germany, far-right leaders are capitalizing on public fears, promising to deport immigrants en masse, regardless of their legal status or contributions to society. In Italy, for instance, far-right parties have openly supported hardline stances on migration, including plans to deport undocumented migrants and even revoke citizenship from those deemed undesirable. In France, the far-right National Rally, formerly the National Front, has long advocated for the deportation of immigrants, particularly targeting communities of African and Arab descent. This potential wave of deportations would have devastating human consequences. Families would be torn apart, communities destroyed, and individuals sent back to war-torn countries or regions plagued by poverty and instability. For people of color and immigrants living in Europe, the threat of being treated as outsiders, despite contributing to the economy and enriching the cultural landscape, is palpable. The rise of the far right in Europe isn't just about immigration. It's about a broader assault on multiculturalism, diversity, and the values of equality and human rights. As these movements grow in power, the danger extends beyond individual nations. It threatens the stability and unity of the European Union as a whole, as it undermines cooperation and fuels division. The far right's focus on massive deportations is not just an attack on immigrants, it's an attack on the very fabric of European society, which has long been built on the exchange of ideas, cultures, and people. The world watches as Europe grapples with these challenges, and the outcome will set a precedent for how societies can, or cannot, balance national identity with the imperative of human dignity, an impressing question that lingers in the forefront of American society is whether or not it will remain a free and just nation, where equal rights and human rights are not determined by the color of one's skin or ethnic background, as citizens grapple with the complexities and challenges of upholding these fundamental principles. The weight of this inquiry looms heavily over the nation, casting a shadow on its past and shaping its future. Will America continue to be a beacon of justice and equality for all, or will it succumb to discrimination and division? The answer remains uncertain, but the fight for equality rages on. Only time will tell. Thanks for watching.